So it's my, I want to try to express with just a few slides what is my vision about how the entrepreneurship is going to change during this revolution. You see here that as much as we're moving away from the industrial economy, as more it will be the general impact we're going to have, but also the impact on the business model is going to influence quite a lot in the way how the entrepreneurship it is evolving. I found like four main drivers that are at the basis of this revolution or this shift change. And both technological, economy, social, all of them are changing their scenario very, very fast. If we think about how soon we're going to have organs 3D printed, and that's really in a few years that they started to work about that. You're going to see also about the economies, how emerging economies took a very relevant position, influential position in a so short period of time, or even new industries. Just imagine the mobile industries in really few years, 3 to 4 years, became multi-billion-dollar industries. But it's especially the demography. That's the next generation, because over the next 10 years, on a worldwide scale, we'll have the largest percentage of young people, and most of them going to have accessibility to the next generation technologies. So it's why we'll see really things changing very fast. I tried to identify to get a bit better clear understanding few dynamics that impact the new entrepreneurship model. So it's a whole new mindset, design thinking and hacking mentality, because everything that surrounds us is potentially hackable, changing functionalities, improving performance. So it's important to have a mentality to say, I want to change, I want to get the chair flying. It doesn't matter if it looks weird or stupid, but everything breaking the rules. And it is very important to have, of course, a design thinking. It's need to be creative over the next years. And very, very important, which is bringing to this new paradigm, are the sharing and the collaborations, because this is changing completely the interaction patterns between the industrial economy. Because in the industrial economy, everything was transactional. It was analogical, it was linear, it was always a transaction in doing something for the next or for something else. And moving to the relationship is going to changing completely the way how the peers and the people going to interact together. Another important dynamics, it's the difference between the scarcity and the abundancy, because the paradigm of the industrial economy was based on a scarcity. It was always filling an empty space, creating a new products, finding new markets. It was like an infinite loop of consumption in filling the scarcity. Well, now we're jumping to an abundancy is in a global scale. Now it's important to have different sort of economies that's going to be reinvented, different layers of economy. It's not just matter in filling with the next products a market. So going more in, digging into more what is the next, I say the next workforce, it's the new rule for the people. I like those definitions, peer incorporated or entrepreneur personal producer, because moving out from the transactional to a relationship mode, and if we consider the creativity and we're going toward a higher individuality, and if we consider the platform that most of companies will have platform in the future, and a number of sub-networks, they're going to create relations. It means that the peers, instead of doing like in the past, working on a progression like a job number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, try to pursue a career path. Today, if you have a number of competence, it doesn't matter if you are the founder of a startup. You could be a co-founder, you could be a participant of a startup, but at the same time, you can work also on, how can I say, it's a handling at the same time different jobs. Try to work on a project, try to work with a startup, and that's more a competence. Competence can be shared at the same time in different way because it's a relationship and not transactions. So if we move on, it's even the industry, there is the big difference in between the industrialization that have been able to scale through the standardization. So it was matter to have processes. The human, the people, the peers was filling one ring of a chain of a process, was not expressing himself. And even, especially in products, it was try to get standard and to get especially the concentration of a mass. We have the mass market, the mass media. Try to get a lot of people on a few products, on a few services, on a few informations. And that was limiting the diversity and the individualization because it was like everyone getting the same product. So what's happening now, the new technologies, especially if we consider all those technologies that are going to the materials in the fabrication, so robotics, 3D prints, digital. So all technologies are bringing new possibilities to reinvent infrastructure and businesses because there is, in my opinion, a relation in between a business, technology, and infrastructure. So all the new technologies are able to engage in new business, and those new business will be different infrastructure. And the new infrastructure will collide with the old infrastructures. It's not possible to get them getting inside. It's like thinking the financial, the banking, in over the next 10 years, over 2 billion of people will transact money using mobile technologies instead of opening a bank account in the world. It is going to be a big change driven by technologies. So a new infrastructure for the credit will be in place as an alternative to the bank. And we can imagine all the impact. So what happens? It's if you're going to see all these new generation of industries will be represented by a new generation of entrepreneurs. We had a great example, I say by the past 10 years, especially around the digital, mostly been web and mobile-based platform. But we saw a number of industries that have been disrupted by new generation of entrepreneurs. And it happened that most of them have been backed and supported by investors. A new supply chain, I define the supply chain that starts from the seed investors. I say by the past 10 years, a large number of accelerators, incubators, seed investors, and late-stage investors supported a new generation of entrepreneurs and new companies disrupting the market. But what we see, it is over the next 10 years, because technologies are in somehow merging. So we not have only web platform or mobile platform, but we're going to have those one connecting with the 3D print. Just imagine the makers.
It gets me,
we are able, with the next
room and board
generation,
and conferences to look for deals.
get the artisans being able to scale. Because in the past, the technology just limited, and the industrialization took the scale through the standard. But now that we are going toward a higher personalization, just consider how much can be done. The technology, materials, biotechnologies, nanotechnologies, digital, and everything is going to merge to really reinvent the business down the street. So
it's fun.
I define corporate garage because personally we are experiencing also this direction because most of the industries and companies, they need to change their business model. Otherwise, they cannot survive because the new business model collide with the old one. And it is very, very difficult
as an accelerator
for
in
the
Alps
existing business
has an apartment
to innovate from inside because it's a matter of culture, you need to engage different people, different mentality, different culture. So as a new startup grow independently with the VC money,
20 countries,
more startups
6 months
will be growing the market supported by the corporations, by the company.
Great.
Also, what I learned in 8 years in doing seed investment and incubating startups, it's very important to understand the local environments because if you want to really want to get the innovation reaching the market,
it's $1 million.
It's not that we have always to pursue the next big thing.
After 18 years,
try to get the next Facebook or the next Google. That will be obviously the biggest challenge, but that's going to happen only a few times. It's limited only on a few companies. Instead, the real economy, the one down the street, it is based in solving also local problems. Try to get most of the startups surviving because some are really able to address a huge change or drive industry disruption.
And I spend New York.
But those companies probably they need sometimes a very large consumer market that deliver a large traction.
I was at Home Network.
But quite often, if we consider, especially smaller countries, smaller nations, there is a number of local problems to solve. A number of startups that can be local startup and growing internally together with the economic texture that created the
San Francisco's too much inside baseball for me.
Of a specific nation.
It's too much.
I'm experiencing this one because I'm doing in Italy.
New York is much
so
more
Italy, it's
diverse,
very interesting as entrepreneurship attitude.
As also
very interesting in specific industries related to the design, the fashion, the food. But we have a very limited structure for the VCs, the investors, to help startups go into the market with the VC money. And we created infrastructures 80 years ago, and we created an investment portfolio, co-invested with a number of investors, sometimes angels, sometimes venture capital. But we see that there is a large opportunity to create startups also backed by industrial partners. And we started to pursue also that way. And we see the number of companies that we are able to get in the market is larger than just try to get with the venture capital the best one reaching the highest success. So this is try to be fast and give it in few words and really few slides. What is my my vision coming from practice, from my experience in how the entrepreneurship is changing. I finish. If you have any questions, if you want to ask me something.